So good morning, everybody. Welcome along to another RPMA webinar. We do these every month through the year, and you'll be overjoyed to hear that they're free. So this morning's session will probably be a wee bit quicker than what we usually do because it's just me. So to introduce myself, I'm Richard Horne from Manage My Property in Wellington, and I'm on the RPMA board. And I'm responsible for the content in this session today because it's come all of it from my experience as a property manager. And I would say probably everything that I'm going to give you today will be information that I wish I knew before I became a property manager, because it would probably make me question my sanity. But I became a property manager anyway, and it's quite a profession to be involved in. So what I'm hoping to achieve this morning is a little bit of enlightenment for each of you, a few tips, a few things from my experience that might make you smile or wonder about the sanity of some of the people you have to deal with, and set you free at the end of the session with some useful information in your head that you can apply in your job throughout your career. So what time have we got? I think everybody's in now. It's about 2 minutes past. So let's get started. I'm going to introduce you to a very useful product which you should have in your toolkit. You should have in your car, you should have in the laundry at home. It's CRC, and CRC has saved me so many times. In fact, I think 3 days ago I was doing a viewing, and I could not for the life of me get a key to work in a lock. This stuff works miracles. But CRC is useful for a lot of other things, and you might not know that. You might think it's just a lubricant, an oil. There's a whole host of things you can use CRC for in your job. So here's some stuff you probably didn't know. You can remove crayon from walls. Why would there be crayon on the walls? Because a lot of tenants have kids that just draw on the nearest surface, and it can get expensive cleaning that up. CRC and a dry cloth will get rid of that stuff. It's amazing. It'll take tea stains from a kitchen bench top, or coffee stains where somebody's had their coffee machine, and you get this dried dark brown stain. CRC will quite easily lift that in a lot of cases. One you don't want to know about is it's good for getting rid of dog poo from your trainers, so I'll skim over that. Chewing gum, you get that stuck to your feet and you trod it into your carpet. That stuff is costly to remove, but CRC will loosen it up, and you can take chewing gum out of a carpet or a sofa cover, a seat cover. And I've done that several times, and it's very effective. Personally, you can waterproof your hiking boots with CRC. You're going to smell of oil, but you won't get wet feet, and that's a good thing. Candle wax is another thing that property managers will encounter when the tenants had friends around for dinner. They put candles in light the candles in the candle holders, and the wax drips onto a surface like a carpet. It can be very difficult to remove that. CRC will certainly help with it. Another tip for that, though, candle wax in a carpet, brown paper will help to remove that. What you do is you put the brown paper over the wax that's stuck to the carpet, and you use a warm iron, like you're ironing your clothes, and the warmth softens the candle wax, and the brown paper sucks it up. And I have first-hand experience of that, as my wife will attest. You can use CRC to prevent wasps from nesting in the property. I have had a giant wasp's nest many years ago, a huge one in a house, and CRC helped stop it expand, and then we had to get the exterminators in to finish the job off. But CRC was in the car, and it just chases the wasps away. You can use it for cleaning your bathroom tiles. And again, if you're a clean freak like my team is, you will be overjoyed to hear that CRC is excellent for cleaning tiles around the bath and the kitchen sink and the bathroom. Another bugbear which owners don't like is spots of oil on the driveway from a car. And CRC can do a lot of cleaning up to that damage. So you can't pass having a spray can of that in your toolkit. Gets rid of slugs and snails, and if you've never had a snail infestation, it is horrific. I did have a snail infestation in a property in the Hutt Valley. Going back a good few years now, and we did everything, the pest control, we had all sorts of poisons, we put salt around the outside of the room. We did everything we could to chase these slugs out of the house, and it just was not happening. If you spray CRC around where you would put salt, it just turns them back. You will destroy the snails and the slugs, which is what you're after. It's as effective as salt. And you can use it to remove duct tape, which is the other product that holds the universe together. And another one that you may not have realized, but you can use CRC to make sure that people aren't doing any cocaine in your bathroom. This is from the UK. Bristol police were advised that if they sprayed WD-40 onto the toilet seats in an apartment block, it would prevent people from using the seat lids to snort cocaine. So that's a useful note to end on that one. Now, I've got a list here, which I prepared earlier. I've got a list here of the number of professions that you as a property manager are going to fulfill. And again, I'll go back to my early days. I thought that when you were a property manager, you were dealing with tenants, you were dealing with owners, you were dealing with property and tradespeople. So probably some of you out there will be thinking, yeah, that sounds like me. And then your role expands. And it expands because things change all the time in people's lives, and you have to deal with different aspects of it. And one of the things that I realized probably when it was just me working for myself initially, before I had a team, I realized that there was a few other jobs that my role covered, and the same applies to you. You may think that you are just a property manager, but don't make that mistake, because there are a lot of very expensive professions that you will cover. So I'll give you a few examples. I've got a list of 41 professions. A lawyer, because we quite often have to go to court, go to tenancy tribunal. It's the same as going to a law court, exactly the same. And you have to know how to present at court and how to behave and how to prepare to go into court and presumably win your case. So you have to do a lot of work that ordinarily would be classed as legal advice. An accountant, you're responsible for the rent money that comes in and recording that transaction and making sure that the books balance and that the payments are made to your owner clients, and you're basically a low-level accountant. Record keeper, you have to keep records. It's a legal requirement, so you have to make sure that your records are up to date for things like healthy homes compliance. You've got to have records of everything that are easily accessible, and MB will check up on you and your company regularly. Our company has been audited 4 times now, and you have to be prepared. You have to have your records up to date, and if you don't, you will get slammed. Building inspector, Quite often owners will ask you after an earthquake, possibly, how is my house? That can be a different area. A bookkeeper, kind of like being an accountant. A financial consultant, you quite often be asked, people will ask you, what's a fair rent for my property, or what's a good part of town to buy a rental in? Handyman, well, we all know stories about that. A lot of owners and tenants will expect you to fix things while you're at an inspection because, yeah, you've got a toolkit in the back of the car and you're able to do a little bit of light electrical work or a little bit of light plumbing work. Mediator, quite often get into discussions about rent payments and maintenance, and you have to be able to deal with, as the person in the middle, the conduit between the tenant and the property owner, and you have to mediate some discussions so that they can progress. Answering and message service, passing on information from various sources to your owner or to your tenant. Advertising copywriter, you have to put your adverts up on Trade Me and through your advertising channels. You've got to be able to write a good advert. And conversely, you've got to be a good photographer and take good pictures of the property that you're trying to let. Cleaner, how many of you have got a microfiber cloth and a spray can of Pledge in the back of your car and you wipe the odd window or the odd cooktop? Or yeah, it's a good thing. It's a good thing to do. But some people expect you to practically do the cleaning for them. Delivery driver, you know, owners will say, oh, I've bought an oven on Trade Me and can you go and pick it up and deliver it and install it? No, but yeah, there's quite often an expectation. Marriage guidance counselor. I have been involved in marriage guidance situations, which I still can't believe. Private investigator. So sometimes I had one of these late last year. I had a tenancy that was just going south so rapidly, and from all angles, the grass was this height, the house was a mess, there was holes in the wall, it was just tragic. And I had to try and get in touch with the outgoing tenant. I had to find out if she owned the car that was dumped in the front lawn or if we could get it towed. You have to make a lot of connections and do a bit of research on social media to find out what you can about the person that you're trying to sort out. And also, if you're selecting a tenant, so you're going through a tenancy application, you've got to do a bit of, I guess you call it spying. You're on Facebook and other social media outlets to try and find out if this is a person that's worthy of being a tenant of yours. And a bailiff's assistant is going to be my last one, because I have helped bailiffs when they've had to do remove a tenant physically in one case, pick them up and carry them off the property. So yeah, job titles that you have. You may think you are a property manager, but you have got a whole lot of job titles in the back of that. And your owners get that for a small percentage of the rent. So you are all rather poorly paid lawyers, in my opinion. You have to know a lot about the law, the various laws, and there's lots of them that apply just to tenancy itself, but to property as well. And you have to know your stuff or know where to get information or get support and help for that stuff. Moving on, misconceptions. Oh, there are so many misconceptions about property management. My favorite one is that property management is money for jam. It is, it's easy to do. Everybody's been a property manager. We've all looked after Auntie Mabel's beach house for 6 months, and people think that that's property management. So no, property management is not money for jam. There's a lot of research, a lot of education to get somebody like you to just look after the basics. You've got to know your stuff. A lot of people think they can manage their rental property from overseas. I come up against this all the time. Phone call from somebody recently from the UK saying, look, I've been looking after my property in Auckland, in Wellington for a long time, but my job's changed and I don't have the time. Can you do it? And it's like, you know, you can't manage a property from overseas. You have to appoint an agent, whether it's a property manager or a friend or a tradesperson that you know. You cannot manage a property from overseas. And a lot of owners don't know that. Another thing that a lot of owners don't realize is that they can't visit their property anytime they like, let themselves in with the key that they have, and have a poke around. They can't do it. There is a process, and you have to follow that process. You have to give notice to the tenants and give them more than 48 hours notice that you're going to be there. And you've got to respect their privacy, because my opinion is that a lot of owners don't realize that when they sign a management authority or a management agreement with you as a property manager, they're basically giving their house to you. It becomes your property to look after. Consequently, when you sign a tenant up to a tenancy agreement, you are ostensibly giving them control of the property. So the owner is 2 steps away from it. And you have to get permission from the tenant to enter the property. And if you don't, it can lead to a lot of trouble. So, and if it does lead to a lot of trouble, some owners think that you can kick a tenant out anytime you like. And no, you can't. Would that were true. The law is changing all the time, as some of you will already know. Changing all the time, and that has changed too. So a lot of misconceptions. Inspections, which you will be doing all the time. Inspections is a good one. Some owners say, oh, I haven't inspected the place for 8 years, because they're such good tenants. And when you go in there and find the place in disarray, water tank in the ceiling is leaking, plasterboard is drooping off the ceiling, carpet soaking wet, and again the grass is up to the top of the fence. This has happened in the last few months with our business. We've seen a property that was completely and utterly smashed to pieces, and no inspections had been done for I think over a year. So yeah, you've got to do inspections. The thing with doing inspections is it shows that you care, and that it gives an expectation to the tenant that they have to look after the place, and you will be keeping an eye on it. So it's not a bad thing at all. A lot of people think, and property managers the same, it's really nice to have a nice cozy personal relationship with my tenants, because they're my friends. And I would urge caution in that one. It's nice to be nice. It's good to treat people with the respect that they deserve, treat them fairly, but they're not your friend. You're entering into a business transaction where they pay rent, and you take your percentage from that rent, and you get paid to do that job on behalf of the owner. So you have to go with respect. But if you let the tenants become your best friends, it can be a problem for you. So you watch out for those misconceptions. I think my most favorite misconception in property management is, oh, I'm sure you've got lots of tenants on your books who would love my property. And no, we don't have a list of tenants waiting for a property to come up, because if somebody is looking to rent a property, they need it kind of like now or in the next 21 days. They don't need a call back 6 months later to see if they want to move into one of your listings. So what have I got to wrap it up on? If you have any questions for me, type them into the appropriate chat and I will answer them for you. But I just like to finish up with, let's have a wee look here. Just some of the stories that you hear around about, because there can be some surprises in it. A good few years ago now, I've done this 2 or 3 times. I've gone out on social media through our channels, and I've said, hey, anybody got any funky stories from their experiences as a property manager? And boy, we got some funky stories. Some of them I cannot recount to you today because I'm sure it would be offensive. But you know, some of the daft questions you get asked, or the assumptions that people make. You quite often get asked at viewings, is this a nice place to live, this house? And it's like, well, no, I don't know. I've never lived here. Can you hold the property for 2 months? Because I'll be finishing my job and moving to Wellington then. No, we can't. We'll be looking for a tenant to move in and pay the rent as soon as humanly possible. Okay, sorry, just got a question from Holly. Says, thank you, Richard. 41. Oh, it's disappeared. Here we go. 41 professions sounds about right. I've got up to 48. There's a few that I've added in. Still a bit confused about the WD-40 on the toilet seat. Well, I cannot speak from experience, but if you spray a toilet seat with WD-40 or CRC or any such substance, and then you put a line of cocaine on it, I'm told you won't be sniffing it. It stops people from using your toilet seat to sniff something. Probably more aimed at pubs and clubs than houses, but yeah, I don't know if that answers your question. I've got one little story from here, from my quest to get some funky stories about property management. So this is, I'm quoting this from notes that I made a long time ago. 2 years in with a new tenancy, I had the lovely tenant ring me to advise she had been doing some gardening and wanted to know what to do with the dead sheep in her compost bin. Wow, who'd have thought that would ever happen? And I thought that would be on the outer edge of things. But I will tell you one story that was direct experience for me. We used to look after a 3-bedroom house in Nainai. It had a huge garden at the back, with a planted border, flower beds right round the whole of the section at the back. And we had good long-term tenants for a number of years. And, you know, it was a bit of a rough house, but it was okay. And the tenants were good. And then they moved on, and the owner took over the house to give it a going over, a repaint, a recarpet. And so we stepped back from managing the place, probably for a total of about 3 or 4 months. And I got a call from the owner. He said, why didn't you pick up on the rubbish that was in the back garden during your closing inspection? So I did what you would expect me to do. I jumped onto our records and I had a look at the final closing inspection, which I'd done. I couldn't see any rubbish. It was beyond me. Don't know. There's no rubbish there. They showed me a few photographs. They texted me a few photographs. And what the tenants had been doing was filling up their council rubbish bag with their household rubbish and burying it in the garden, all dotted around the flower beds at the back. And they dug up behind the garage and put their rubbish into the flower beds and covered it over with soil and weeds. And mind blown. Poof. I still have no concept of why anybody would think that was reasonable behavior, but you know, it's $1 to get your rubbish picked up. I have got a lot of stuff on people asking if we can hold a property for them. No, we can't. We had a few people explaining their arrears by saying, how can I pay my rent? I've been away on holiday. Or the best one, and this is a doozy, you didn't remind me to pay my rent, so how could I have paid it? So unreasonable. So yeah, I just wanted to get your brain thinking about how you have to deal with the so many different aspects in your job. And thanks for the question about the 41 professions. It is true. You are expected to cover a lot of stuff, and a lot of stuff that you have to be qualified to deal with. And so I would steer clear of the handyman label and having tools in the back of the car and a ladder. No problem with a cloth and a spray can of furniture polish. That makes sense to me. But you can't do all of the professions all of the time. So I'll reiterate what I said to you before, which is you should consider yourself as badly paid lawyers. That doesn't mean you're badly paid. It means if you were a lawyer, you'd be getting $200 an hour. And if we were doing that in property management, we'd all be happy. So, so thanks for joining me today as I whittled on. Oh, I've got questions in the Q&A tab. Good Lord, that's got to be good. I wondered if you would share inspection reports with your property owners. Is this required? Yes, you should be sharing your property reports from inspections. I would have thought it would make complete sense to do that, because if you've got a reason to not send an inspection report, you've got a bit of work to do, and that will bite you. It will most definitely bite you. So that's Jenna asked that question. Is it required? It's an expectation of all owners that they will get to see their inspections every 3 months, and you do them religiously. Inspections are the meat of the job. You have to do them. You have to do them well and comprehensively. So yeah. Catherine, what about not paying your rent because someone died, but it was the same excuse as last week? Yeah, that's a tricky one. I have had a tenant who was in arrears and told me that cancer had taken her son, and it turned out to be a little bit of a fib. Yeah, people that say somebody's died and we've had to go off, go to the funeral, and we haven't been paying the rent because we've been away. Yeah, that's just a tale. I have had, over my time in this job, I have had 2 deaths. One of them was it was a flat in Brooklyn, and it was the family that rang me on the Monday after a long weekend and said they hadn't heard from our tenant. Could we go and could we investigate? We then got contacted by the police, who said we got called out to the flat that you look after, and we had to break in, and we found the tenant had died. What does that mean? Well, sounds terrible. If they're in a periodic tenancy, they've then got, the family's then got 21 days to continue paying the rent and move the deceased person's belongings out of the property. So that's dealt with in the RTA. You will find that in the small print in the RTA. So CJ McEwen is asking, what is your opinion re-meth testing before and after each tenancy? It's a sort of a legal and philosophical question. Some companies will insist on that. It's a part of the deal. They put it into their management agreement, and that's fair enough. It's probably wise. It is a decision of yourself if you're operating on your own, or of your company. The advice generally is get a meth test in between tenancies as a regular thing. Some people don't do meth tests at all. If you have cause to do a meth test, you might be in trouble going to tenancy services, tenancy tribunal, and you don't have a meth test to fall back on. So it can bite you as well. Ask your boss, if you have a boss. If you're the boss, make your own mind up. I did, and I'm not going to tell you what my answer is. So any other questions? Catherine Buchanan says it can also be a requirement of the owner's insurance policy to have a meth test. So there you go. that's where in the insurance world impinges on the tenancy world. You can have things that ostensibly override the RTA, which in legal terms sounds wrong, but it's the way it goes. What time have we got? 11:31. I'll give you one example of where one rule book overwrote the RTA, which thoroughly confused me, and I never got a satisfactory answer for. I used to look after an apartment in central Wellington, and I had three 20-somethings who rented this. It was a very nice apartment, and the body corp in the apartment block had a rule that if 3 complaints for noise or behavior were received by the body corp for any property that was rented out, we had to apply to the tenancy tribunal. And that happened to me with this apartment. We got 2 complaints about noise and a notice saying 1 more complaint and you have to go to tenancy tribunal. You have to make an application to tenancy tribunal. So I spoke to the tenant and warned him. He went away on holiday and his flatmates let him down. Body corp got the notification. I spoke to the tenant and said, you know what this means, we have to apply for to the tribunal. We got a mediation hearing. The tenant turned up. The mediator said to the tenant, do you want to end the tenancy and move out? He said no. They asked me, did I want to end the tenancy? I said no, because I didn't. The mediator said, why are you here? I said, because the rules state that we have to apply to the tenancy tribunal, but it doesn't state that we have to end the tenancy. And I went back to the body corp and said, I've fulfilled your obligations. But before I did that, I asked the legal department at Tenancy Services. I spoke to 2 property lawyers, and MB actually came back to me about a month later and said, we can't answer your question. My question was, how can body corp rules, which are not the law, override the RTA? Nobody had an answer for me. So that's why I say you guys are really badly paid lawyers. You've got to know your stuff and learn from your experiences and soak it all up, because you're badly paid lawyers, but it is fun. Any other questions? Oh, I wonder if you're okay. It looks like I've covered everything, guys. So I hope it hasn't interrupted too much of your day and that you guys have got something out of this morning's sessions. We'll be announcing the next one in the next couple of weeks, and I'd urge you to bring a friend and bring a cup of coffee and stay awake, and we will speak to you the next time at the next webinar. Oh, also remember the RPMA conference is coming up on the 24th of July, which is not that far away. Grab your seat now, because we're looking for a good turnout again this year. It will be held in Auckland, and it should be fun. So thank you all for turning up today, and we'll see you next time. Bye.